Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
Cube Monk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen, and welcome to Global TV Talk Show. This is a news product of globalbusinessnews.net, which has been active since '03, and according to Google Analytics, since '03, our sites have garnered 1.2 million reader page views, including January 1, 2021 through April 5, 20,207 reader page views. And a lot of that has to do with Global TV Talk Show, which is an outgrowth and a reinvention of our live meetings, which went to zero just about a year ago. So welcome to the reinvention. And our very special guest today is Paul Barnes, coming to us from the UK in the London area. And in the background also is ANDREAS STRACHWITZ. So hi there. Welcome, ANDREAS, to the talk show. First time. Paul, where in London are you?
Yeah, well, firstly, Ed, many congratulations on the traction and the readership that you've got. It's absolutely fantastic. And thank you for inviting me to join you on the show today to talk a little bit more about my passions and my new consultancy that I set up and areas of interest. And so I'm actually west of London, about 60 miles west of London, and the nearest town is Oxford. So
nice.
Part of the world, part of Europe. Yeah.
So Oxford, that's where the university is, right?
Yeah, and I had a few weeks ago, I had to go in, a yearly hospital appointment. I decided to cycle into Oxford, which was a little bit strange because it snowed and it took me longer than I thought. But I ended up cycling around Oxford and there was nobody about. And it was the most, I thought if I could take somebody around Oxford on a cycle ride with nobody about, it was an amazing sort of couple of hours. It's a great city around the universities and yeah, it's a great place.
Wow, how interesting. So, ANDREAS, where are you located today?
I'm southwest of London. I'm in Winchester, former capital of England, just outside of it, in a little place called Martyworthy.
I've never been there.
No.
No, I've never been west of Heathrow. I'm just a Californian. So, Paul Barnes, congratulations on your reinvention, and it's inspirational. And there you are, Inspire, as the name of your enterprise. So this is a reality thing. It's not aspirational. It's real for you now, right? You're going to play entrepreneur and try to make a living.
Yeah, and it's exciting. Over many, many years, you get to a stage in your career. I've been in mobility over 25 years, worked with some amazing people, and those people have been so good to share their skills, their wisdoms, their knowledge with me, and help shape me. How you look at challenges, how you overcome them, as well as the technical skills. And I started my consultancy with looking at RFPs, because I've seen some amazing RFPs over the years, as we all have, and unfortunately we've seen quite a few bad ones, and the outcomes for everybody aren't great. For global mobility procurement, they spend a huge amount of time on this. That they start off on a journey which often takes them in a direction they didn't foresee. They end up in some difficult situations, and potentially, they don't make the right decisions. They don't get the right outcomes, and it just causes them challenges, as well as the people actually responding to this. So it's how to make the journey better for everybody, more engaging, and actually get the results that you need, that you set out for, in a very time efficient manner. And there's some quick and easy ways to do that, which I share.
Well, I thank you for that intro. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive on the state of the industry today and what it looks like. Craziness as a result of the pandemic, and working from here. This is, I'm in downtown San Diego, and this is my corner of the dining room. And I see you're in a library there, Paul. And so
it's a small one. Yeah, it's a small one.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so I wanted to say, first of all, this is April 9, 2021, and the news of the day is the passing of Prince Philip. I remember years ago, of course, as a young guy, watching the TV and everything. So this guy originally was an Olympic athlete and been quite successful, right? And was raised by royals to be an outstanding Renaissance guy, and wound up where in at the top of the world as married to Queen Elizabeth. So it's really been an interesting life journey from this side of the pond here, and particularly California, and the media aspects of following the royal family and all the life. Life gets in the way, so all these things that have occurred, and I'm the furthest thing from being an English subject, but glued to the TV and the media aspects of following how it's done, I guess. It's the way, watching the royals be royal. It's not a movie, it's reality.
Yeah, and it's he had an amazing life, and sort of quite an interesting upbringing, as you alluded to. But I think he did a huge amount of good of really pushing the royal family. He was into technology. He was an innovator. He went at quite a quick speed. He came up with the DOV, Duke of Edinburgh scheme for younger children, which both my boys went through. They didn't enjoy all of it, but they look back and smile. And
what was that, national service of some kind?
No, it was basically the Duke of Edinburgh. He wanted to come up with a scheme that actually helped children really grow and mature. So part of it, you had to go and work for, say, like a charity and do some charity work. There was also a lot of outward bounds. So you had to join a group for a weekend, and you had to hike across hills and all sorts of bits and pieces, and trek through streams and find your way around. So it taught you how to grow up and be a good person. But yeah, Andreas, I'm sure you've got some experience there. I'm not saying you did it, but yeah, your thoughts.
I'm only a visitor in the UK because I'm actually German. So actually it's a double whammy, because I'm a guest in the UK and the husband of the Queen died, but he was German in the end, wasn't he? Family called Buttenberg, and he got a very interesting life. Probably not always great, with a really tough upbringing, to start with in harsh boarding schools, and then when he got married, his family wasn't allowed to be there because they were too closely connected to the German regime after the Second World War, and then always being the number, kind of being in the background all the time. Extremely interesting character, and I think probably a tremendous loss for this country.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for that commentary. It adds a lot of depth and scope. Paul, the relocation industry is, I wouldn't call it in trouble. I don't think it's in trouble, but it's certainly going to change. And there's no question that there'll be consolidation. And there's like new players, tech-oriented, who think they know it all. And then there's the old timers like you guys, not me, but you. And
hey, we're the middle-aged dynamic
okay.
in the industry.
But the article that you just posted yesterday or the day before on LinkedIn, I'm sure you notice it's getting a lot of hits. And so will RMCs survive? Well, I think yes, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think they will, but one of the overused words, I think particularly last year, was agile. So many people used the word agile, and I said to somebody recently, would you call an oil tanker agile? Not particularly. But I think the RMCs in particular, they, by the size, the nature of a company, the larger the company, and the little bit longer it takes to move and shift. And I think there's some real pivotal decisions that RMCs have to take in their direction. And I'm just, talking to different people, I think more companies that have been successful in our industry have really focused on some, not just one niche area, but they've actually said, you know what, we're really good at this. We've tried to be everything to everybody, but we're going to actually really focus on the areas where we're really good at it. We get good engagement with the clients. We make money, which is very, very important, and go away from some of these loss leaders, because I don't think people have the money to potentially be everything to everybody. Now, saying that, there is still a market. I totally agree. The convenience of using one provider, an RMC, for everything that you do is huge to a lot of companies. But I think some companies are going to look back, I'm saying to people, actually look at what do you actually want? What constraints have you got? And these are the roads that you could go down to achieve what you want. And it may well be, do you know what, the RMC is the best for you? Or it may well be, actually, there's a hybrid model that could work for you.
Yeah.
So, but I think brave decisions are going to have to be taken by all companies. And I think, the industry, I'm not saying it's in trouble, but there's a lot of companies out there, that don't have the cash. They've made huge investments in, say, technology, other commitments, and it's just whether they'll actually get the value out of that investment and be able to, move into some different areas or not. But, you work for a very renowned RMC, Andreas, how do you see things? Sorry, just to pass it around a bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I think you're absolutely right. Trying to be everything for everybody is probably not going to work. You need you need specialists in certain areas, and obviously, working for a large RMC, my view is, and I do truly believe it, that the RMC is a real vendor manager as well. It's not that we should be able to do everything in house. That's not going to work. We will always need a DSP network. Now our proposition obviously is in doing that management on behalf of the client, with the client's input on which kind of providers and so on. And I also agree with you, the industry might not be in trouble, but there's going to have to be some change. I mean, organizations who are now saying everything's wonderful and marvelous and what crisis, you kind of think, yeah, everybody's feeling it, and everybody who's trying to say that it's nothing for us is probably stretching the truth a little bit, to be kind. But I do think that people who are really in trouble probably have been in trouble before the crisis as well. I think the crisis, the pandemic, is being used as a bit of a scapegoat for some organizations now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Andreas. I know you have a unique perspective. Paul, today, right now, are companies gearing up for hybrid, whereby they would hire me, for instance, hypothetically, to stay where I am in San Diego, California, and work virtually on assignment in UK? Working whatever I do that way, rather than get on a plane and travel.
Yeah, and I think it's great you bring that up, 'cause it's this whole, people to work, work to people, and I think that's one of the great things. And if we could, it brings me into another subject, which is sustainability. And if you're able to actually hire people and keep them compliant and not actually relocate them, and I see, there's a lot of organizations with tech people, and these people could be anywhere in the world, and we don't want to get too deep into this because it's could get very complex. But essentially, if you've got an entity and you could hire an employee, yourself in San Francisco, and the head office is say in Amsterdam or London or Munich or somewhere, it can be done quite compliantly. And from a sustainability side, you don't have the upheaval, you don't have all of that travel, you don't have all of the household goods moving, etc. Now, it's not great for the relocation industry, but it's certainly good for the environment. And I think these new ways of working will come, but companies need to be very, very careful what roles. Is it sustainable for Ed to work on the west coast of the States with the time difference? So if you're managing people or you're responsible for a business and you've got a lot of engagement with what would have been the host, and you're stopping at the home, that's going to be very, very difficult. If you're an amazing programmer and you just like to get your head down and work away, and you have the occasional meeting and you do everything remotely, but your interest, your motivation is in your work, which you predominantly do on your own or within a small team, I could see it working very, very, very well and being beneficial. You wouldn't have to leave your family, you wouldn't have to leave your network of people, deal with another tax system, deal with another currency.
Right. So as far as cross-cultural training and friendship, trust developing cross-border, cross-time, cross-cultures, what I'm finding, just as an aside, from doing what I call TV broadcasts, in other words, a teleconference, which is old school, it's been around forever, right? Yeah. But now with the new applications, it's every day, nonstop. But I just got off a call with Yana Chezanowski from the Brunel Corporation in Rio, all right, which from here is a 4-hour time difference. And we talked for about 35 minutes about the company and where they are in Brazil. They're in lockdown right now. Yep. And there's hardly any vaccines going around there. And there's a law saying you can't go out for a walk along the beach. Mm-hmm. You'll get a fine. So this is pretty severe for a loosey-goosey country. And yet she and I had a wonderful conversation, rapport, about a relocation industry from that perspective in Brazil, and working for a Dutch energy company, and her recent experience online with the United Nations Women's meeting, which just occurred last month, and she was a delegate and involved. And we talked about that. And taking some of that experience now back into Brunel, her bosses, in their wisdom, have not furloughed her, have not laid her off, no threats, no nothing, just continuation, but enlarging her scope, her work, to include DE and I. All right. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, and you know, DE&I is, you know, I think it's one of the great things since the start of COVID. You know, there's been so much great dialogue on this and so much done, and it's really not just on the agenda. You know, it's up the agenda, which is key. It's not low-hanging fruit that's going to drop off. People are really taking notice of this, and you know, a former colleague, Andreas's colleague, Laura, you know, she just, wow, she's so passionate about this, and so many people are. And if I could switch gears a little bit, because I mean, so much has been about that, and it's really important. And you know, a little story. As I've been talking to people with my consulting, explaining I can help them on the RFP, on the audit, technology innovation, getting the best out of that. And I've added another strand to it, which is sustainability, because it's a topic. Some people are really into sustainability, and they are taking actions within their mobility program. And there's a lot of
what does that mean? You mean don't take a plane ride?
Well, let's look at the policy. You know, it's the bigger picture. You know, fundamentally, if you can take the work to people, that is massive for the, you know, the environment, your carbon footprint. But it's also looking smartly at, you know, what you offer people. People do discard and donate. Let's take it, you know, really good, you know, really good. But what I've seen is the discard and donate. So you're relocating, you know, say Andreas is going to relocate from London to Singapore, and he's offered discard and donate. So the provider typically says, you know, you can get rid of what you don't want to take, we'll take it to charity, get the volume down. But I think there's different levels of engagement. Now, say the company explains this to Andreas, and say the company links it to an environmental program that they have going on in the company, so that Andreas knows about this and knows it's a big thing in the company. Wow, it's part of our internal program now. And they tell Andreas earlier, and it's all part of the program, hey, we're going to measure this as well. Do you know, how impactful is that, you know, as opposed to the poor service provider having to say, by the way, there's another service we can offer you. Yeah, great. Well, it's a little bit late. You know, I've only got 3 weeks to go. If I'd have known 2 weeks ago, you know, so it's just about how you position something and the results you can get from it. And you know, I wanted to join a sustainability group, and I couldn't find any. I've spoken to lots of people doing amazing things on sustainability. And at the weekend, it was a long weekend, I decided, well, I'll start a group. So, you know, just started a group, and it'd be great if people just have a look there. It's sustainability in global mobility. We just started it. I pushed it out earlier this week. We've got 95 members, some great people already sharing. Yeah, Ed's a member. You're a founder member, Ed.
Hey, and I'll push it out. Why not? So, about a month or so ago, I had this gentleman by the name of Ben Sukia on the show, and he talked about the donut. Are you familiar with that concept? Relative to
I only like
sustainability.
The ones with ham in,
I know, you just eat it. Right? I know. So he says there's something about this world revolving around the specific topic and how it impacts the environment.
Yeah.
And I can't recall his exact words, but please, I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah, no, and that was a great session as well. And you know, people like Ben raising this, and one of the things that want to do with the group is just inform people. You know, people sharing what they're doing, asking questions, being quizzical about things, pushing the boundaries, and also making it acceptable for small steps in sustainability. You know, when a company takes a small step, you know, they should be applauded. But as soon as global mobility gets more on board and starts engaging with people and saying, actually, it's really important to us going forwards, it will be part of the buying decision. That will then, don't want to use the word force, but it will force the companies that aren't really into this. They have a nice glossy brochure, you know, and they think it ticks a few boxes, but they aren't really actively doing anything in this. It will force them to sit up.
So is part of this not shipping household goods?
No, not at all. But it's how you do it. And I had a conversation with somebody a few weeks ago, and they, well, actually a few conversations around the same topic about shipping lines. And somebody had looked at the shipping lines and they said, you know, they've seen which ones were the greenest shipping lines. So potentially they were going to say to the providers, you have to use the shipping lines. And I said, well, on the face of it, that is a really great, you know, I applaud you for doing that. But there's very few shipping lines actually that take household goods around the world when you look at it. And on certain routes, again, there's very few companies. So it may well be that you say only use company A for shipping, but company A goes from, say, San Francisco to Singapore, and it stops off at 10 places, and it goes another 1,000 miles than, say, shipping company B, which isn't as environmentally friendly, but it's much quicker, so it gets there quicker, it's traveling less miles. So when you add it up, that would be the more environmentally friendly route to take. So just with that simple, you know, example, it could get very complicated. So for the best will in the world and best intent, you can actually have something that's severely backfired on you. So I'm not a sustainability expert, but I know a lot of what people are doing. I want to embrace those ideas, but also make sure that it's workable for global mobility. Global mobility don't go on a journey for something that isn't going to actually be workable and reality for them. Yeah, but you know, Andreas, you're an environmentally friendly guy.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with everything you're saying here, and I think it's a great opportunity for various parts of the supply chain to show great innovation. You know, things like, you know, we're all gone paperless, more or less, and all of these kind of things. I think these are things that should be taken for granted. But, you know, talking about household goods, you know, try to think more about getting containers on the train. You know, why do you have to have a truck that goes from the harbor through the entire country to then deliver at that location? Can't you put it on a train? And I only spoke just recently to a household goods company that's actually ordered the first 2 electric trucks for the local transportation. I mean, that's a great thing, and organizations will want to hear that you know, the household goods company can say, listen, this is what we're doing, this is the result. We got, I don't know, 50 containers off the road and put them on the train, and by the way, we've got electric trucks. That's going to sell. You're absolutely right, Paul.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is, you know, have something tangible and measurable, and I understand there's a company out there that is actually have some AI, and they will actually work out, as I understand it, approximately what the carbon footprint is of any move worldwide. So I'm really interested to engage with them a little bit more and learn, because I'd love to know just, you know, what I presume in air freight has, you know, the highest carbon footprint. And to Andreas's point, you know, if you can get something on a train, I would imagine, yeah, over the journey that you do, that is going to be pretty low as opposed to a truck. But I would just love that we would have the information. You know, picture this: we're going on assignment, we have our allowance, and mobility share with us, by the way, this is the carbon footprint of your air freight allowance and your sea freight or your road freight. Now, if we're environmentally friendly, it make us think, and so they would say, do you really need that air freight? Because, you know, and I think if you've got something visible and tangible, people will stop and think, and then it will become the norm. So I'd love to use some of this data and push it out to people and see how people can actually use this. You know, people with, you know, probably listening to this and having far better ideas than me, but you know, I just want to start things and push things out and make people aware of things, and actually, you know, applaud people when you know, they are taking great leaps. But, you know, the industry is going to have to reshape. You know, it's, you know, household goods have been going down for years, volumes have been going down for years. You know, it's reinventing itself, and you know, we need to do a little bit of catching up in the industry.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
What are companies in your sphere in Europe doing to maintain the relations with people like yourself, even though there's no volume currently?
Well, it's funny you say that because I only just had a conversation with a colleague earlier today exactly about that. I think as an industry, we're noticing that even though the volumes have dropped dramatically in some areas, some have been fairly stable and everything, we are busier than ever for very many things. One of the things is, if you have a transferee that's actually moving right now, you have to spend a lot more time with that transferee, advising them on what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. We're very much reliant on our corporate housing providers to tell us, how are these apartments being kept clean, what kind of measures, doing all this giving all this advice, and then giving all the information to the transferee. But also, many organizations are being very strategic at the moment and want to use their partners in mobility involved in these strategic conversations. So we're also having a lot of conversations with organizations that are reviewing their policy, trying to be more efficient, or conversations like Paul is having about sustainability, about diversity. Our consultancy practice is quite busy with organizations looking at diversity and equality and inclusion in their policies, because it's something that this current environment of working from home has opened up opportunities for people who may not be as mobile as other people are, so they can maybe have opportunities that they can fulfill from home rather than having to move. But on the other hand, and going quickly back to the idea of Ed, taking a virtual assignment in the UK with 8 hours time difference, your life work-life balance would be pretty much turned upside down, because if you have to manage a team in such a completely different time zone, and I find East Coast to Europe is with 8/9 hours to continental Europe, it's a day, and that is, I don't think that's very sustainable and very feasible, to be honest. But I might be just saying that because I want the people to keep on moving, of course. But if you look at it realistically, I think it would be a great loss for individuals, not to have the experience to work in a different culture and to live there, but also for the organizations to not have employees who have experienced that and bring that culture, that experience back into the, let's say, headquarters, wherever they might come from, or to their home location.
Thank you, Andreas, for that impromptu deep dive. Adds value and texture to this program. Thank you. Paul, talk to us about audit review, audit program review, particularly right now. People's needs have changed because they're working from home. Things are going to change even more, I assume. Paul, what's your view of this, and how are you using your Inspire to help companies see things differently and react differently?
Yeah, on the audit side, it was basically, for me, it actually stemmed from a conversation with somebody who reached out to me from procurement and, new to the looking at global mobility. So we had a very great conversation. I told them a little bit about the industry. They thought the industry was a little bit not simpler, but not as complex. So they thought it would be more of a quick and easy to go for this RFP. So the more I explained to them, the more they could see that their RFP would actually get pretty complex compared to where they thought it would be. They also thought the margins were a lot higher in the industry. They also thought that their spend figure that they had, sorry, let me rephrase. The spend figure they had also included, when we got down to it, a lot of parts that their provider was paying a lot of costs and expense management. So when they looked at the total spend, I said, you've got to take all that out, and then you'll see the true spend that's going through your provider. The provider was, I said, how are they doing? And they said, well, apart from one or two things that, it's okay. And I said, well, do you really want to go for an RFP? Because, it doesn't sound like you're going to have the time to do this. And then you'll be into the situation of what I've said, where you don't want to be. You'll run into something, you'll rush global mobility into it, and it's not going to be a good outcome for anybody. So then they said they needed to go to an RFP to look at the pricing. And that's where I said to them, well, there's quicker and easier ways of benchmarking, but why don't you do an audit on the contract pricing and the contract as opposed to what you're actually being billed, because nobody had looked at it. So on that side, I took a very high level view, look at them. It was all pretty much okay, but there are a couple of points that I went back where they could potentially save some money and just be a little bit more transparent. But to your point, Ed, I started to talk to them about some of the other things they could consider with the new ways of working. And I've not, hopefully we can have further conversations, because mobility needs to be involved. How's the policy evolving? How's their working arrangements? The new ways of working. Well, that needs to be supported by their provider. So, there's lots of different ways of looking at that. But yeah, I've had some interesting, audit reviews with people and discussions, because it can be a quick and easy way. You don't have to go to an RFP. If you do, I can help you. That's obviously for sure, but you don't have to.
Yeah, thank you for that. So let's talk about seat at the table kind of thing. So basically you're dealing with procurement, is that correct? Or are you dealing with other stakeholders?
Well, it's really surprised me. I joined a few procurement strategy buying groups on LinkedIn, and I didn't expect too many people to reach out. But before I can, for obvious reasons, leaving a previous company, I couldn't reach out to my sort of network. So everything I've done is on LinkedIn, and so the people that came to me were through LinkedIn before I launched the company and launched the website and started pushing what I'm doing. So the majority of people, funnily enough, that came to me were procurement, but my main target market is to help global mobility people. Anybody who's in global mobility, a stakeholder in that was my target sort of audience, as it were, but procurement are obviously in there as a stakeholder. And there's another company we're going to have more dialogue, is because having a conversation with procurement and global mobility, they said they're all aligned goals and objectives, which I start with. And I asked them a few questions, and from their answers, it was obvious they're not. On the face of it, they're all aligned. And I said, well, you've got to sort this out before you then go into the weighting and the scoring and how you shape the RFP. Because at the moment, you're going to rush into something, and at the end of it, you're going to have an issue with making a decision, because then you're really going to get down to, well, that's actually not what I want. Well, that's what I want. You don't want to be having those discussions in the final decision making. You want to have those at the front, get everybody aligned, and then you've got a timeline for success and an approach to build towards.
What about the sensitivity of wasting people's time going to RFP? And Andreas, I welcome you to jump in, of course.
I can only say, I think RFPs have become cleverer over the years, but there's still a huge demand, I think, for what Paul is talking about, and what Paul is offering is to have a clear understanding what you want to buy before you go out. I've seen still till today RFPs that get put on hold because they've realized all of a sudden, well, hold on, we're hearing things that we have never heard of before, and we said we didn't want it, but maybe we do want it. Little, features, could be features or services, or and we still get the when you talk about time waster, you still get an RFP that's just an Excel spreadsheet for numbers, which is something that I personally tend to stay away from, because it's not, we're not producing pencils or pens. It is a human service, so you can't just put a number next to it and that explains everything. But I think it is already, a lot better. I see that one of the very interesting things that I've heard early on in my career was a big pharma company that had, I think, something like a $300 million annual spend in mobility, which I find is a pretty significant number. But in the grand scheme of things, that wasn't a great big number for the procurement department. So they put the rookie on the RFP for that. And let's see how much he can make out of it. The guy, nice guy, very first RFP in his life, obviously had the massive challenge to try to find savings and to earn the trust that he was the right person to hire. So then he kind of came with the goal to save 25% of what it is. Well, if you look at what Paul earlier said, if you really look at the cost structure, how much of that is leases, tax, general expenses, and so on, you come up to the point that there's really only the area where you can spend is where that's the service delivery, and is that the right thing to do? So putting on in a nutshell, from my point of view, I think there's surprisingly many RFPs going on at the moment, I have to say. And most companies, because there is time, are taking their time. And it's a great mixture of really well educated and really, really well formulated RFPs to maybe not so great clarity. Because the other thing is, if you're not 100% clear in what you want, how do you compare? How do you choose the right provider? And I think, Paul, if you can help organizations from the background kind of get this actual level that you want to achieve, everybody would be much helped by that, even the providers, because they know that it's been compared in a fair way, or in a diligent way.
And yeah, and if I could just pick up, you made some great points there, Andreas, thank you. And it's to me, one of the things I've been saying to people is engagement, because if we're engaged and motivated and really impassioned about something, wow, the work that we do, time just flies by because you're so into it and you're so creative. And being very open over the years that, where companies have engaged with me and the company I've worked for, and we've responded to an RFP, we've actually given better pricing, and we've given everything to it. So I'm saying to people, you want to be the RFP of choice, you want to be up here, you don't want to be down here, because if you're down there are last year quite a few people turned down RFPs. They were too busy. Some RFPs had to go, and the RFPs just didn't interest them and they declined it. But I said, you know, even if somebody responds, if they give you stock answers and stock pricing, you've got to evaluate all of this. You want people to really, really think about their answers and really give you the best answers, the most concise answers. And if they're really into it, they will give you the best pricing as well, because there's a level of trust, the engagement is there, and they actually really, really want your business. So when it comes around to evaluating all these RFPs, it's a joy rather than a chore. Still takes time, but it's so much easier. And then the pricing is a lot better that you're getting. And then when you go through to the next stage, the best and finals, you can take that best and final to the next level. If everybody's got stock answers in there, you know, where do you go with your best and final? You can do a lot of things, but you're not setting yourself up for success for anybody else if you don't have that engagement. But there's some very quick, easy things that you can do to really raise that engagement through the roof and make your life so much easier, and everybody else is enjoyable.
You know, I'm enjoying this conversation. I've always been, you know, not in the relocation management side, but always putting people together who do all that. So I'm learning a lot, frankly. So here in the U.S., I'm sure you know, there's a lot of discussion between household goods and RMCs about getting in the way of each other and cost runaways that impact the cost of relocation. So, Paul, from your perspective, first of all, is that going on in the UK and in Europe? And second of all, what do you think about all that? And is there a way through it?
Yeah, and there's always been for many, many years, you know, any company, say a household goods company of any degree, you know, they have their own business, and then they need to go and work for relocation companies as well, whether it's in the US, whether it's, you know, international, it's Europe. You know, and some companies, the partnership is really great and it works very well. Others, perhaps, you know, the relocation companies don't really value the providers, and that gets the providers backs up, and all they see is they just want to drive the cost down. Again, they don't engage with them. They just say, you need to reduce your price, rather than sharing, this is what happens in the market. You know, these are the reasons we need your help. You know, can you help us? What other ideas have you got? That's what the smart people do. So there's always been this little bit of, say, them and us. And there's been a little bit of friction, and I think it got better over the years. But, you know, a few years ago, you know, one of the companies drove the pricing, you know, down with the van lines, particularly in the US, and there was a knock-on effect, everybody catching up. You know, on my simple view of it, that's what I saw. And it was kind of a one-way ticket to a lot of difficult situations, and a lot of people not being happy, particularly with so many owner drivers deciding to go and haul something else or just pull out of the industry. You know, why should I run around and have all these increased liabilities pushed onto me, having to get all this insurance? You know, I could go and haul pillows or lumber or, you know, anything without all these issues and hassle. Plus somebody else loads my truck. You know, you want me to load my truck and haul it, you know, and then, you know, get paid a pittance. So, yeah. But Andreas, I mean, you know, you've got great views on this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I don't think it's as bad. I don't know. I'm too far away from it to say if it's bad or how bad it is. But I think it's very different to what is in the US, because I think it's a very US domestic topic, where I think a couple of large van lines decided to give corporations better pricing than the RMCs, or trying to kind of get them out of there. That's something that I personally, at least, I don't see here. What I see is the household goods industry is an interesting industry. I mean, you know, in some regions of the world, they do a great job, get fair money for it, and that's it. In some countries, like for instance Germany, I know it because I'm from Germany, and I've lived there for a long time. I sold there. These household goods companies, they just try to kill each other in pricing. It's just, you know, there's no rhyme or reason when you look at, and I had to, I get involved in the household goods pricing, and you see some companies pricing household goods, and they cannot make money that way. And it's a mystery to me, because why would I do anything where I don't make money? So there must be some other way to get money. Maybe it's the household goods insurance where you make the big bucks. I don't know. But it's an interesting concept. But again, as Paul says, throughout my career, and I've worked for a few RMCs, you have a good relation to your supply chain. And if you speak and if you brainstorm together, some great ideas come out of that, and everybody benefits from it. Because if I'm a household goods company that work for a client in one location, they go out to RFP and some RMC gets it, I'm at risk of losing my business, because especially if it's an RMC that's connected to a large van line, the risk is I'm losing. But if I'm creative, if I work with others together, there's great opportunity for some great things.
So Paul, back to Inspire. I have to tell you that, first of all, I've been an entrepreneur for many, many years, and it's the easiest way to crash your credit rating and and also get in trouble. So I admire your guts, and I wish you well, and I hope you win a lottery someday. But it just seems that because I'm having difficulty making a living doing this, although I've been able to find some support with advertisers. It's really slow, and so I'm keeping every expense some bare minimum and pushing things and people off, and then there's hope at the end of the tunnel, because I see, because of the quality of the conversations like this one, we'll be able to attract some advertisers who want the eyeballs on their brand or on, whatever. So before we get to an end here, I want to say that 99.999% of our audience for this program is going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months from now, and between now and then, as well as I and my partners in marketing around the world resend this program. I will send it to them, and they'll under an arrangement with me, they will send it to their followers, and eventually it's going to have a lot of eyeballs, because it's so personable and easy to listen and to understand what you guys are talking about. And the numbers could be as high as 50,000 page views. So I've got 17,000 direct connections. Well, they're going to see it more than once, okay, because I'm going to send it out. But I also have our own website, which, as I just said, had 20,000 page views since January 1, according to Google Analytics. And a lot of it has to do with people looking at our YouTube channel through this. So, and almost all of it, not all of it, but almost all of it. And I belong to 93 groups on LinkedIn, which has like a total reach capability of 1 million, right? But not all of them open it up, that's for sure. But it reaches that. But our best circulation for this kind of program is going to be 70% will be across US, 20% Europe, and then the rest. But we're going to send this to mobility managers. We're going to send it to VPs of HR. We're going to send it to comp and ben people, lawyers, tax people, banking.
Well, we could get sued for something, lawyers.
So there's a lot of eyeballs who will see this show and pick and choose. So with that in mind now, and to zero in on what you really want to achieve with Inspire, I think it's inspirational to see you doing this, frankly. And so why don't you just do a deep dive here for a few minutes about number one, why are you doing this as
Sure.
opposed to working for a big company? And number two, are you getting response?
Yeah, well, number one is, I've always thought I would one day like to work with myself. As I said earlier, I've been so lucky to work with so many amazing people. I've seen people go and start their own companies. Everybody's been really successful because they're good people, and also they're good people at heart. So, what they do things because they believe in it. They give sound advice, and people recognize that and the value that brings, and they come back to them, they recommend them. So that's why I wanted at my stage in life, it's coming up towards mid-50s, and I thought, yeah, hey, it's time. It's a good opportunity. I can plan to do what I need to do. My time is my own. I don't have to fill in forms. I don't have to fill in systems. I don't have to, I'm not nothing against any company, but when you're part of a company, you spend a lot of your time and energy. And sometimes you think, I'm joining things. You have to join things, but did it really achieve something for me personally and my goals of what I want to do to help the clients? It's more generalist. So starting in Inspire was actually quite easy to do, particularly around the RFP side, because, I just knew there were so many areas I can help people just from shaping their goals and objectives. Had some great conversations with people already. And I think what a lot of people are open to is, and want me for, is to actually help them with their goals and objectives. Is it realistic? Really nail that down. So they've got a mantra that comes up all the way through an RFP. And when they get to difficult decisions, or to Andreas's point, they get led off in different directions, actually come back to it and say, is it going to achieve this? Do you know it's not? Well, we're not going to get led off piste, as it were. Or if it is interesting, we'll consider it. But they actually stick to their goals, and then I'll help them format the RFP, and particularly the pricing and the service specifications, because that causes a lot of issues, a lot of questions. And then people don't get back like for like pricing, and then it all starts to descend into a real mess that just sucks time away from global mobility stakeholders and procurement. And then it also sucks the life out of the providers, because then they're asked to do things at very short notice. So they can, the GM and procurement can try and source like for like. And the thing is, I think the global mobility and procurement, they don't go into this thinking this is going to be their outcome, but they're crazy busy people, and they're just learning things as they go through. So that's something I can actually help people with. When I went into this, I made the decision I'd only work for global mobility stakeholders. I wouldn't work on the service provider side. And I do think a lot of people reached out and said, can you come and do some consultancy work? And I had to say no, because as soon as I start working for people on the provider side and they're paying me, how can I truly be transparent? If a GM want me to actually say, give them an objective view on somebody, so I'm totally impartial. I've got no connections with any company. I'm not paid by anybody else. I'm only paid by the people, global mobility procurement, who want me to help them on their journey of whatever that may be. So, I'm prepared for the long run. You start with a little acorn and you slowly grow an oak tree. So, it's going to be potentially to be paid much money. It's going to be a slow journey, but I want to get to, if people were looking at this, say an RFP, that somebody would say, hey, if you spoke to Paul Barnes at Inspire, he's got some good ideas.
This is good. Thank you. So are you dealing at all with the recruiters? Talent acquisition?
Sorry.
Are you talking with corporate managers involved with talent management, talent acquisition, rather than downstream just mobility?
Yeah, well, a lot of mobility is linked into talent. So it is for, it's not the recruitment people, it's the global mobility people that engage, with service providers. Yeah, that's the target or audience.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to say, come on back and give us an update and
Love to.
participate. We are launching Global TV. Talk Show is launching 2 new series coming up. I'm the moderator. I'm not the doer. I've got partners who are the doers, and I'm the bringing people together. One of them is about leadership post-COVID, because people needs have changed, people have changed, and organizations have changed. And chairman of JP Morgan Bank, which is the largest US bank, yesterday or the day before, said for every 100 people, they only need 50 or 60 desks. So what does that mean to the corporate real estate business and whatever, you know? And so things are going to change. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be an economic boom. There already is here in California, but across the US, no question, all the stimulus money and applications of infrastructure and whatever, and a Made in America real big push coming. So much business is about to boom here, and companies are going to relocate people again. There's no question. But how are they going to do that, Paul and Andreas? You know, are they going to do it the same way? I think that's one of the goals of your business, Paul, is no, they're not going to do this the same way. They can't. So how are they going to do it? Can you elaborate it for a minute on that?
Yeah, if I touch and I could pass to Andreas, I think, you know, you've really got to look at the culture of the company, not one size fits all, what the type of industry is. You know, if you can get, you know, taking the work to the people to start with, you know, and embracing new technologies. You know, you've got, you know, Perch Peak, you've got Benevo, you know, some other great companies out there with these new app approaches to, you know, home search and other services. And it was interesting. So I had a conversation with somebody in mobility. It was actually the Perch Peak Benevo type solution, and they were looking at certain categories that they could potentially use it for. And I said, well, why don't you flip that? You know, isn't it more to do with a certain type of person? Because I said, you might have a senior manager or you might have a mid-manager, and that might, you know, their mindset might be, I want an app-based, you know, solution for this. So, you know, it shouldn't necessarily just contain it just to one area of a company, but that may only work for certain types and cultures of company, you know, when you do that. But Andreas, you know, been talking a lot about this. Love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think, Ed, you're right. They're going to have to move people. They will move people. It's the how. Excuse me. At the end of the day, I think a few features will be different. We will have to be more cost effective, a bit more sustainability. But at the end of the day, it will be individuals, families, moving from A to B with all the anxieties, all the needs that were there before the pandemic. There might actually be even more going forward. So I think there will always be the need for the human interaction with individuals, let that be on the intercultural side or just on the very logistical side, with the advice given on how the household goods move, if there is one, is going to happen. There's a lot of anxiety when you've got, you know, and no matter what time, it's all very great to hear we're going to move to Singapore, and it's all you go on a trip and maybe see where you might want to live and everything, but it's all very, it's not very real until those household goods packers come and start opening the drawers and packing things up. So there, I think it will always be as exciting or positively and negatively as it was before. A few things will change. I think, yes, there will be different needs, and that might not only be Corona, it is also a generational thing. I mean, we all know, you know, my children do everything with their phone. I do more or less everything with my phone, and they're going to want to be doing things with their phone. They might not want to have somebody come in the house and do the survey. but that's a feature. There's still going to be people coming and packing up the goods, and that's not going to change. So I think we will have some temporary shifts in kind of the way we approach things, but at the end of the day, I think people are going to still move.
Yeah, I agree.
If I could just pick up as well to make
Yeah.
my position rounded, because I actually spoke to 2 corporations in the last couple of weeks, and this is nothing to do with COVID, but they were both looking at mid and senior management. And to Andreas's point, that transfer of knowledge, international experience, and they're actually looking at expanding their program for this segment of people. So this is, people that will get a full allowance. Potentially it will be, they'll be on assignments. So this is a group of people that's going to expand, because over the last number of years, they've just found this has dwindled, and this is international experience, and their international businesses and their clients expect senior managers engaging with them have international experience, and not international experience that is from 10 years ago. They want them to have current international experience, and they see that as a differentiator in their industry to actually really push this. So there's still actually, there's going to be a lot of mobility, which is why it needs to be in a sustainable way.
Paul Barnes, what's your website address?
It's actually IG Mobility, so www.igmobility.co.uk.
IT?
Sorry, IG Mobility.
IG.
IG Mobility. Yeah, I took the option with the domains to keep it as short and sweet as possible, but perhaps I need to swap that around.
Okay, so that is really interesting.
Well. Yeah, but the way would be on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Inspire has a page on LinkedIn. Thank you to everybody who's following Inspire on LinkedIn as well. Thank you.
We invite you to come back on the program in a month or so. Give us an update with any interesting experiences or revelations in your journey. And we're here to help you with global PR. And
he'll be so busy he won't have any time to talk to us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but with the 8-hour time difference here between California and where you guys are, we can find a time. Andreas, thank you for your time, and you guys have a great weekend and stay healthy.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Ed. Great to see you, Andreas. Take care.
All right. This is Ed signing off from San Diego. Paul Barnes and Andreas STRACHWITZ, both in the UK. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.